A woman sits at her kitchen table at 11:47 p.m. Her phone is in her hand. She has spent the entire day solving other people's problems. She reminded him about his appointment. She helped him through his stress. She listened to his frustrations. She fixed the argument. She sacrificed her plans. She gave her time, her energy, her attention, her patience. Then she opens her phone and sees something that stops her cold. A one-word reply. Okay. That is it. No appreciation, no effort, no warmth, nothing. And suddenly, a terrifying question appears. How can someone receive so much and value it so little? Today we're talking about one of the most painful psychological traps in human relationships, the belief that if you become indispensable, you will become irreplaceable. Psychology, history, and real-life cases tell a very different story. And by the end of this video, you may never look at being useful the same way again. Many people spend years believing that love is earned through sacrifice. The more they give, the more valuable they become. The more problems they solve, the more appreciated they will be. It sounds logical, but human psychology is often anything but logical, and few stories reveal this better than the story of Dorothy Tenoff. Dorothy Tenoff was a psychologist who spent years interviewing people who were deeply in love. She expected to find that the strongest relationships were built on constant giving. Instead, she discovered something surprising. The people who experienced the most intense romantic attachment often became obsessed, not when affection was guaranteed, but when affection was uncertain. She called this phenomenon limerence, a state of intense romantic fixation. One of the strongest ingredients wasn't certainty, it was unpredictability, the possibility of loss. The possibility that the other person might not always be available. This was shocking because it challenged one of the most common beliefs about relationships. Many people think, if I give more, they'll love me more. Yet the research suggested that unlimited availability often reduced emotional tension, and emotional tension is one of the things that creates pursuit. This doesn't mean playing games. It doesn't mean manipulation. It means something much deeper. People often value what feels meaningful, and meaningful things usually have boundaries. Now consider another woman whose story became one of the most documented relationship cases in modern psychology. Robin Norwood, a family therapist. She spent years working with women who constantly sacrificed themselves for troubled partners. The pattern became so common that she eventually wrote the best-selling book, Women Who Love Too Much. The stories were remarkably similar. A woman meets a man with problems. She becomes his emotional rescuer, his supporter, his fixer. She believes that if she loves him hard enough, he will transform. At first, this feels noble, compassionate, even romantic. But something strange happens. The more she sacrifices herself, the more the relationship revolves around his needs. Her identity slowly disappears, her hobbies disappear, her goals disappear, her social life disappears, her emotional needs disappear, and eventually she wakes up one day realizing she has become essential, but not cherished, useful, but not valued. Robin Norwood saw this pattern repeatedly, not because these women were weak, but because they confused love with self-erasure. Psychology calls part of this pattern codependency, when a person's sense of worth becomes tied to solving another person's problems. The dangerous part? It feels like love, but often it is fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, Fear that simply being yourself is not enough. Let's pause here and ask something important. Have you ever given more and more in a relationship, friendship, or family connection, only to feel less appreciated over time? Write your answer in the comments. Your experience may help someone else realize they are not alone. Now let's move to one of the most famous psychological experiments ever conducted, the work of B.F. Skinner. Skinner wasn't studying romance, he was studying behavior. But what he discovered helps explain many human relationships. Skinner found that rewards delivered unpredictably created stronger behavioral patterns than rewards delivered constantly. This became known as intermittent reinforcement. It's one of the reasons slot machines are addictive. You don't know when the reward is coming, so you keep pulling the lever. Years later, psychologists realize this principle appears in relationships too. Consider a person who gives everything. Unlimited attention, unlimited availability, unlimited forgiveness, unlimited access. Their presence becomes predictable, expected, guaranteed. Now compare that to someone who has a full life. Goals, standards, boundaries, self-respect. Their attention is valuable because it is intentional, not automatic. This difference changes everything. And a real-life example of this appeared in the life of author Cheryl Strayed. Before becoming a best-selling writer, she spent years searching for validation from relationships and external approval. Then, something changed. After devastating personal losses, she redirected her energy toward rebuilding herself. She hiked over 1,000 miles on the Pacific Crest Trail, alone. That journey eventually became the foundation of her famous memoir, Wild. What made her story powerful wasn't romance, it was the psychological shift. She stopped making her identity dependent on who stayed, and started building a life that existed independently of anyone's approval. Suddenly, relationships became part of her life, not the center of it. That is where true power often begins. Not in controlling others, not in making people chase you, but in becoming deeply connected to your own purpose. One of the greatest misunderstandings about self-worth is this. People think confidence comes from being chosen. Psychology suggests the opposite. Healthy confidence often comes from choosing yourself first. Not selfishly, not arrogantly, but responsibly. When your entire identity depends on someone else's attention, you become vulnerable to manipulation. When your identity is rooted in your values, goals, growth, and character, you become difficult to exploit. And that changes every relationship around you, because now your presence is a gift, not a desperate request for validation. The moment he stopped chasing, he became impossible to replace. Now on your screen. She friend-zoned him, then got mad when he found someone better. Watch now. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.